Hello and welcome back to the next part in my series of videos comparing QTS and DSM from QNAP and Synology respectively. We are looking at the brand new 53D series from QNAP and the 20 Plus series from Synology, the 920 to be precise. But we're focusing on photography today. Now, I say photography, let's get straight down to brass tacks. We are talking about editing photos on these NASs. I've done loads of 10GBE videos, and if you are going to edit raw photos, you're talking your 25 meg, even your 100 meg files, editing on a NAS over the network, if you are going to use it for Lightroom assets and stuff like that, aren't really appropriate unless you're going to be using increased network bandwidth speeds. Modern generation NASs that feature 2.5 GBE, 5 GBE and 10 GBE are far more appropriate for that task. As well as that, there are PCIe enabled NASs that let you add network interface ports that will increase the network bandwidth for you to edit files on the NAS. But for today's video, we are using a standard 1 GBE network. And what we're looking at today is how you can enjoy your photos, which may seem a bit caveman, but it really isn't. Because let's face it, if you are putting loads of files on a NAS, and particularly prosumers or very small business users, chances are the photography you're going to be dealing with is going to be somewhere between that 0 to 20, 25 meg. Modern mobile phones are taking photos now of around about 10 meg by standard, but once you really ramp up the settings, you're looking at 20 meg files. And again, if you do want to edit files on a NAS live, then you can. There are ways to do it if you do want to utilize 1 GBE, of course. What you can do is go ahead and use the QFinder Pro tool from QNAP or the Synology Assistant tool from Synology, and then scan your local area network, find the NASs, and then you can do lots of things with either mapping a network drive, where you right click and you can map a network drive and then find the drive in the NAS. If you've logged in, click a letter, add that letter, and then boom, you can then have a file on your NAS that you can then interact with like it's local on your PC. Same goes for the Synology. Find the NAS you're dealing with, the 920 there, map network drive, enter the login credentials, go ahead, click next, find the folder you want to play with, photos perhaps, go ahead, give it a letter, click next, open up the map network drive, and boom, there's your map network drive. Now both of these platforms allow you to do that very easily. On top of that, you've also got their own dedicated file folder system with Synology Drive on the Synology. We've talked about this in previous videos, that's why I'm talking quite quickly. With Synology Drive being a folder on your local PC that is synchronized with a file on your NAS, and you can set all kinds of stuff there in the background for file pinning and file streaming. So if you look at the photos there, go into an album, you'll see, I'll go into the correct album, I think we've gone to the wrong one there, but it gives you the ability to right click and then attach that file to your local system. Do check out part 1 and part 2 of my series of videos where we talk more about that. On the QNAP, of course, you can go ahead and create these files and folders here, so with QSync, and again, QSync, you can pin those files and photos quite easily, synchronize them, encode them, and you can edit them locally using your own desktop software. But again, your network speed is what's going to make all the difference there. So once again, I know we're a good, nearly 4 minutes into this video, but if you're going to edit files and photos on your NAS, those are the methods that are nice and easy to set up. Today's video is more about looking at photos, cataloging photos, tagging photos, and being able to search through your photos, because both of these NAS platforms bring a lot to the table for that. Now, it's an incredibly long intro so far, but I will highlight a few disclaimers off the bat, and I'm sure they're going to be on screen there. First and foremost, today's video is being recorded with OBS, the screen recording software, which will occasionally utilize a lot of our system resources in terms of the CPU, the GPU, and the memory. So there may be the odd graphical thing and blip along the way that I won't see because I'm screen recording, but it will come up in post, so I apologize for that. Next, this half screen against half screen thing, what I'm doing here is just so I can show you how all of these user interfaces compare. So when you use your NAS, chances are it's going to be full screen just like that. So when you're utilizing all of the different softwares, you are going to see them in full screen mode. But in order to show you guys the whole thing side by side, we're doing it this way. And bear in mind, once again, this is a 1GBE network, so sometimes I might be doing a task that's incredibly network intensive on one NAS that will impede the results of the other. And I've upgraded both of these NASes to 8GBE, but it's not really appropriate to worry about that too much. But let's talk about photos. Of course, both of them have got their own file management application, both called File Station on both NASes, and both of them allow you to just browse the files and folders on your NAS quite easily. You can sort of look along, look at photos if you choose. If you go into the photo folders that both of these NAS devices have got, if we go into the Synology Drive and Moments folder there, we can go ahead and look at some albums. We open them up there, same goes for this side. Go into photos, and again you can look at files and photos in this manner. It's not ideal. If you open up a file and folder there, and same goes for there, we'll just select two random photos, both from the same album. You can look at photos within the browser. We've talked about that on part 1 of this series of videos. As you can see, that impacted the GPU there. But what we want to look at is the dedicated photo apps. Now, both applications originally had a photo management tool called Photo Station. Now, Photo Station on both platforms is quite similar. They're both designed to be nice, straightforward, and easy ways to look through your photos. You can share them quite easily. You can cast them to other devices, apply tags, create smart albums, and create whole systems of sharing files and photos. You can look at standard photos, GIFs. You can look at a myriad of different kinds of photo, as well as look at them in a time-managed fashion on both of them. And thumbnails, a timeline, a map. You can go to the map mode on the Synology, something I haven't really seen on the QNAP platform, but I've always kind of liked the map system that's built into it, so you can look at a whole map. And if you are using a geo-tagging device like a mobile phone, it will come up with a map of all of these albums and where the photos have been taken, so you can go straight in and find out more about them. It's like one's there, that's my work Christmas party there, and of course that was in Kingston because that's where the Surbiton offices are, so you can go all the way in and find out more information about that file quite easily. But again, you can come out from that view, go to the timeline view, and then it's broken down much like it's already on timeline view there on the QNAP. And again, you configure it to dates, go to the photo wall, go to detail mode, and more. So on the QNAP side, again, you can sort of zoom out, zoom in quite easily. You can change a lot of stuff about the user interface that you're looking at quite easily, and you can change a lot of the ways in which you see the media and how it's sorted and the methods with which it's displayed on screen. But I would say that the configuration and tools of seeing your photos in management mode are a lot better and a little bit more intuitive on the Synology platform. Whereas the QNAP has two modes, in gallery and management mode. In gallery mode, all the photos are kind of presented in one large mix there, and you can configure that viewpoint in a number of different ways there on screen. And again, the amount of information you can pull from these albums is quite different. If we go to the timeline view here on the QNAP, so if we go back to management, switch to the timeline view, we can select maybe a photo from 2020. Let's select a photo there. Let's go for a picture of a cat because the internet, that's why. So we're just going to go for a picture of a cat there and find out a lot more about it. And again, there's lots of options there. Let's find a not dissimilar picture of a cat here. Let's find, let's try and go for one that's going to have a lot of background data there. Let's go for this one. And we're going to look at a picture of a cat there. And again, we can look at these pictures. And again, we're not reviewing the cat. That would be a bit weird. But I will say I think there's a lot more view options readily available on the QNAP platform, the ability to turn it to a 360 photo. If you've got 3D goggles or Oculus or something, then you can turn this into a 3D image. And again, there is apps available. You can tag, you can use facial recognition, you can download the photo, share the file, play the slideshow of the file, and find out lots of real-time information about the device that took the picture. Now, different photos will have different metadata tagged in the background. So if we go for a photo that we believe might have a bit more background information, we'll go for that picture of some waffles. We can go down and look at the information there. And there's a little bit more ready information there in the background of that. But of course, it is heavily dependent on the photo you are taking. Now, in the case of the Synology, let's go back, have a look there. We can find out information about this image. So at the bottom, we've got the ability to share the picture in a number of different ways to different social media platforms, download the file. You can rotate it, set the normal sort of stuff. Now, these are quite cool if you want to use some online editors. It is connected with online editors in some cases, so you can edit some things, but my pop-up blocker is not going to let us play today. And you can create that slideshow. If you like, you can find out more information about the files and photos that you're taking. And if we go back, we can right-click some of these images and get information about them. Lots of stuff in the background about when they were taken, how they were taken, and more. And you may already have noticed that GIFs play in the window on the Synology, and that is something that only they provide currently. So all these images here of, let's take an example of my friends looking like idiots, we can have a look at that image of them, and that GIF is playing there in the window. And again, we can find out all the information there, run it through an editor if the GIF is supported, create share links nice and easily, so you can share via an email or just a standard copy-paste link. And the same goes for the QNAP platform. It's very straightforward. Go ahead and we'll use that image there. And again, we've got all the options there of sharing internally within NAS, streaming to DLNA media devices, something that's only available on the QNAP. And of course, get all that information there in the background on what device took the picture and more. And if we want to share the file, again, we've got the social network link, we've got a standard link or an email. So there is seemingly more ways in which you can share files directly to third-party platforms on the Synology, and that support of GIFs is something that I think a lot of users like, and this extends to their mobile phone apps too. They were one of the first brands to support live photo, the Apple support thing where you take a photo and it kind of maintains some of the background information. That is supported on the Synology platform. So that extra 1-2 seconds of moving footage is retained, whereas on the QNAP, it doesn't support that, and even if it did, it would not display in this window. Now, the user interface of PhotoStation on both of these platforms is largely designed to be like a portfolio that you share. So if you're a wedding photographer, for example, and you want to share albums, you can use your own proprietary website, but I do think the user interface of PhotoStation and the share and security credentials that you can share with both guests and registered users is very straightforward, and you can change a lot of the information about these albums, as well as creating individual portfolios which you can then share with intended users quite easily. Now, if we go to the configuration options of both of these tools, we can see that once again they've gone very different methods and options in which you can configure. So of the two, I would say within PhotoStation, the Synology platform has more configuration options, and photographers will probably like a lot of these options with regards to security. And if you're going to share a lot of your photos or edit your photos via a simple network or a 1GBE, a lot of these options are going to be quite appealing to you. You may have seen several there that already apply to your own user case scenario. Now, the QNAP, on the other hand, a lot of the options that you're going to see here will seem a little bit more simplistic. You've got the ability to create intelligent indexing, as well as choose folders within the NAS, and indeed file types that you want to bar. On top of that, you can select individual users for recognition, and we will get onto facial recognition with AI-powered support later in the video. But there is just more options readily available to the Synology platform from the beginning. There are lots of ways to distribute your data on the QNAP platform, and I will say that the ability to cast files and folders locally to DLNA supported devices is quite a cool little touch. But the Synology platform and PhotoStation does seem to have a lot more support, with the added benefit that, of course, DS Photo is supported on the Amazon Fire Stick platform, which means that there is a dedicated Synology app for Amazon Fire Stick to browse your photos from the comfort of your sofa while they're on your NAS. Now, if you've got a DLNA or UPnP app, you're going to be able to see the QNAP using like VLC perhaps, or Network Browser, both of them on the Amazon Fire Stick. They'll be supported, but PhotoStation 6 on the Synology, I would say, wins overall. However, we do see, to my mind at least, a reverse of the dominance when it comes to AI-powered recognition. Now, I talked about this in other videos where I've compared QMAGI and Moment, so I recommend that you check out my dedicated video on these that I released, I would say, about 5 months ago. But while we're talking about photos, we can talk about AI-powered recognition. Now, both platforms have got an AI-powered photo recognition tool. What this means is you can upload your files to your NAS, and both of these NASs have got loads of files and folders, but it's worth highlighting that sometimes you want to look for something and you don't want to have to go to the trouble of knowing its file name. Almost all of the files on this NAS are not called family or food or cat or box or whatever. They are called IMG 2020 19673 and you know, silly names like that. And what happens with photo recognition is it scans with an AI all of the photos on those designated folders and then does two things. The first thing it does, and probably the more popular, is the ability to recognize faces. It will go through and find all of these faces, sometimes the same person, and as you can see here, this chap here, Jason, is in 2 different albums here, but because he's got a fake moustache on his face, he's gone. Same goes for me. There's lots of different pictures of me with either a different haircut or glasses or a fancy dress or a beard, but ultimately it means I can merge a lot of these albums together quite easily for facial recognition. And then moving forward, from that moment forward, when new photos of me are added, it will notice that that is the same person and then add those people together. So say right now, we can go ahead, merge those two together, and now that the AI algorithm knows that this is Robbie. So from this point forwards, it then, when then more photos are added, it will scan it against its existing database of people, and then it will already tag those photos of me. Same goes for if you want those photos to be tagged of other people, such as this gentleman here, known as Gerard. And we can find a few crossovers of Gerard here. Merge those together. And there you go, we're now merging these pictures of this guy together. And from there, we've now got all those photos of us put together. So if we look up Robbie, we can now find pictures of me. If we look up pictures of Robbie and Gerard, there are no photos of us together. Would you, Adam and Eve it? Actually, I should have seen that coming. I haven't seen Gerard in years. Anyway, so not years, months. But again, you can search through and find different keywords, and there's dedicated search tools as well. It will make a difference on how you hide and look for people, and the fact that it will try to merge people automatically, and you can do a mass merging very easily, is quite a cool tool, at least on the facial recognition front. Now, the same goes on the QNAP side. You can see that things look near enough identical, and the same people have been tagged. Some of them I've already done in advance. And again, a lot of the time you have to go through and start merging all of these people together. Across both platforms, the facial recognition is incredibly helpful and is quite a useful way in which you can browse through decades of old photos. But it extends beyond that, and it goes into the subject of things or subjects depending on the platform. And for me, this is the one that's a real kicker, and it's one where I think QNAP reclaim a lot of that prestige. If we go to both the subject and the themes tab, you can see that along with recognition of individual people, it has recognized types. Now, it's not perfect, as we talked about in other videos, because in some cases you can see pet, you can see glasses, you can see beer, you can see different foods there, you can see different things, but it's not always right. Case in point, a cat in a bag here, because of the way that photo has been made, looks like a reptile. Same goes if we scroll up where my cat, for some reason, is being classed as a dog in this picture. Now again, that's not just QNAP there with that. If you head over to the Synology, it's exactly the same thing, where these pictures have all classified my cat as a dog, and the same thing goes for different areas of animals and different kinds of food. It's not perfect. Same there with my cat being classed as a tiger, which I think is a bit weird. But the fact still remains that thing recognition is incredibly helpful if you're looking for certain kinds of photo. So if you've had photos taken from a few years ago and you know what was in the photos, you can search in a far more intuitive fashion. And the number of variables across both platforms, I find that the QNAP has been a little bit more precise overall, identifying individual kinds of things, not just... Oh, the best example we've had so far is when it comes to drinks. Generally, you find that the QNAP is able to identify variables within AI recognition just a pinch better than that of the Synology. The Synology does an incredible job, but it's the idea that there's that extra layer of depth to their searches, although both brands do upgrade their AI core quite regularly. Now, both of them have got support of locational tracking, utilizing either stuff that's identifiable or geolocational information. But much like with PhotoStation, I would say that Places does a much better job on the Synology than it does on the QNAP. With the QNAP identifying only a small amount of information, despite both of these albums having access to the same photos. As good as QMAGI is, it has to be said on the Places tab, the Synology has won the day by quite a significant degree, and a lot of that is to do with that geolocational recognition. But one area where a lot of people prefer QNAP, and this isn't just to do with photos, is to do with folders. The QNAP gives you the ability within QMAGI to just browse files and folders. You can browse through and just access folder networks, whereas the Synology will only present them to you in Moments in this way. You can't search on a file folder level. You can only barely search on a file folder level on PhotoStation. With PhotoStation, you have to pre-designate the folder that PhotoStation is going to be indexing from within the settings menu, and then it will pull all those photos into Smart Index, but it's still not as intuitive as you would like. And having the ability to either have the system scanned automatically or manually search through albums is something a lot of users like to be able to choose between. And with the QNAP platform offering, as mentioned in other videos, Multimedia Console, that intelligent indexing tool and transcoding tool that allows you to select exactly where all of your media lives and where you want it and not want it to look at, as well as excluding file types and systems, I think the QNAP once again presents that level of flexibility that the Synology doesn't quite achieve. And the reason being that Synology wants to be a very smooth, slick experience, and almost all of the way they achieve that, but they do that by fixing the rules in some way that you have to put files in certain folders. The same goes for Moments. You have to put your media into the Moments folder to be indexed. You don't have a lot of control of where that media lives within the Moments application. Now, it would be remiss of me not to highlight that right now we are using DSM 6.2, but the Synology platform soon will be releasing DSM 7 by the end of 2020. And in 2020, you will be seeing the new Synology Photos application, which is the merging of both PhotoStation 6 and Moment into a single platform. And it's going to be very interesting to see what that end result will be. That it will have the slick kind of photographer quality sharing and user interface of PhotoStation with the search and configuration and just AI tools that are provided to you in Synology Moments. Right now, QMAGI seems to be a better choice than PhotoStation for the QNAP platform because it brings the best of both worlds to one user interface. But let's find out at the end of the year how they all compare and as these platforms evolve all the time. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have enjoyed this video. Do let me know what you want to see in future comparisons between DSM and QTS. And otherwise, thank you so much for watching. Click like if you enjoyed it. Click subscribe to learn more. And I'll see you next time.